And yeah, you can see the 5 milestones here. And we provide one-on-one technical support as well to help you through each of these milestones, as well as resources. And we have a new community of practice as well that we've just starting to launch, where we're going to feature some specific topics that we're going to discuss, but then also allow time for people just to bring their own points of discussion and problems and challenges and success stories and things like that. But I'll talk about that a little bit later. So for milestone 1, here's just an overview of the technical requirements for the corporate milestone 1. So it's first one is a summary of the inventory. And if you're submitting through the tool, you don't really need to worry about that because it's already going to be generated in the tool. But if you do happen to email us a submission, then just the kind of like the pie charts and data tables that summarize the emissions from each of the sectors, what we're looking for. The source and year for emissions coefficients. Also, if you're in the tool, you don't need to worry about that because it's already automatically using the most up-to-date coefficients from the National Inventory Report. Summary of data sources that will need to be inputted into the tool. Just a simple description of where you got your data sources from. So, the next person down the road will know exactly how the inventory was done, where everything was retrieved from. And along similar lines, a description of assumptions and omissions. For the most part, the tool will, take care of that as well, because the equations are all standardized. But if there's anything in terms of how you got your data that's a bit different than usual, then you should describe it. And then the business as usual forecast 10 years into the future is also a requirement. And the tool will automatically generate that based on an annual population growth number that you input. And we'll see how all of these when we do the live demo as well. So this few overview of the advantages and limitations of the tool. So it's pretty user-friendly to use. It allows you to track your progress through the milestones. Like, don't need to create your own spreadsheets to calculate things, which is nice. It's automatically going to calculate it based on the fuel and waste data that you enter into it. And we do update the emissions factors as soon as the NIR releases them. And it also is a platform to allow us to help you through the milestone process, because we can actually go in and see everything that you've done and provide comments and use that as a way to interact. So limitations are, it does has pretty limited reporting and visualization functions. Basically, it only supports you can only download an Excel document that summarizes the data. You can't really play around in the tool that much. Doesn't allow you to customize the equations or enter your own emission factors or anything like that. And there's no option for bulk uploading data. So everything kind of has to be done manually, which can be a little bit labor intensive. So in terms of the data that you're going to need before you start working in the tool, so you just need your raw energy consumption for all your buildings and facilities. So that's going to be in just the native units that you would find on your utility bill or from your accounting department, whoever kind of holds this data at your organization. And you can either enter them by individual buildings, or you can aggregate them into sectors. It depends on how you want to do it. We'll see how it looks in the tool in a minute. You want your vehicle fleet fuel consumption, so gasoline and diesel, and ideally broken out by vehicle type and fuel type. So all of the street lights, traffic signals, and any other outdoor lighting we have, like parks, anything that's owned by the municipality, just your electricity consumption from that. Water and wastewater facilities, for the corporate inventory, we're only looking at the energy consumption from those facilities. So it's very similar to the building data. It's just separated out as a different category because of the nature of those facilities are different in terms of the types of retrofits and energy efficiency improvements you do in them. And then we also need the solid waste from that are picked up from waste bins at municipally owned facilities. And then if you own the landfill, if the municipality owns and operates the landfill, then the solid waste that's disposed in the landfill for the inventory year as well. And then, so this is from the PCP protocol. I just wanted to show because they're in terms of calculating the waste from that are picked up from waste bins at municipal facilities. We do provide this to help you estimate it. You can ask your waste department might have an idea of how much, but if they don't, then they can provide you with the number of garbage bins and what their capacity is, how an estimate of how full the bin is at pickup. It's usually 75% is a number I typically see, but the waste department may have better insight. And then how many times it's picked up per month, and then the conversion factor, and then multiply it by the months in the year. So this equation is available in the PCP protocol as well, because the tool doesn't actually calculate this. So it's just you're going to use this to find your raw tonnage that's being disposed, and that's what you're going to enter into the tool. And then if you're ever wondering like what you should include, like what are the boundaries of the inventory, PCP uses the concept of operational control to determine what you should account for in your inventory. So it's basically whatever you have full authority to implement changes or operating policies at should be included in the inventory. So anything you have control of, you can make decisions in terms of reducing energy use at those facilities. So it may involve the discussion about like, with the other staff at municipality as to like what different authorities or agencies should actually be included, who actually has control of it. Sometimes it's not 100% clear who actually has implementation authority, so it might involve a bit of a discussion. Okay, so now we're going to jump into the live demo here. So this is just the home page here. You can, if you don't already have an account, you can sign up. The email goes directly to me, and I'll email you with your username and password. And then I'm just going to jump into the tool. Just give me a sec.
While we did this, I'll just welcome the Linda and Sebastian who joined as well. And I mean, this is for you, so feel free to jump at any time to ask questions. Is that okay, Adler?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, keep it pretty informal.
Go ahead, Linda.
You only have to ask me once. And maybe it's for later in the presentation, but some feedback I've been getting from the local municipalities in gray is that they're seeing some discrepancies, not discrepancies, they're seeing some differences between the PCP tool outputs and the provincial ECDM, Energy Conservation and Demand Management reporting. Broader public sector reporting outputs for corporate buildings, and it seems to maybe be a difference in emission factors. So I just wondered if either of you have any knowledge of that or comment on that, or kind of, I guess, thoughts on how to message around those differences, or if there's a fix or resolution coming forward.
Yeah, I have heard of that before. Like we always just use the emission factors from the National Inventory Report for whatever the inventory year you've selected. So I'm not exactly sure what emission factors the CDM reporting uses. They may have their own calculations. So I think that's probably what the difference is. That's something I can look into and get back to you, Linda.
That would be great. And yeah, I think it's as much as anything just to then be able to explain the difference to council and the public, because of course, whenever you've got two numbers that are supposed to be the same thing that are different, it complicates things.
Right. Yeah, I'll bring that up at our next meeting and look into that as soon as possible. So just if you can see my screen here, this is the the home dashboard page that you'll see when you sign in. This is the super user account, but you'll see like the name of your municipality up here. And you'll be able to edit your background information here, population, all that stuff. So in order to access the inventory, you have to go to the edit page, click on milestone 1, the corporate dashboard here. And then it's going to bring you to this page where you can see all the inventory years that you created. So obviously this doesn't make much sense in terms of a graph because this is just what we use for testing, but you'll be able to see your emissions displayed here for each inventory year you've calculated. And then once you've completed the inventory, there'll be an option to click submit, and you'll see which ones have been approved, which ones haven't. So let's jump into 2018 here. So this is the overview page. On the left, you'll have all the different sectors here where you're going to be able to enter all your data. And then you have other places here where you can upload supporting documents or additional notes as well. And we'll come back to this page a little bit later after we go through. So when you're entering your building data, you can either do it like per building, or you could aggregate it by sector. It's really up to you how you want to do it, but I want to put a name in here, and then there's always going to be two options. The first option is going to be to calculate based on your energy usage. So you'll just enter number there, and it will automatically calculate the emissions from that. The expenditure is optional, but you can put it in there to keep track of that as well. And there's also a number of optional indicators you can enter that will generate the GHG intensity based on whatever you put in here.
Go ahead, Angie.
So for I'm just trying to catch up. I'm following up with ours. So we already have 2020 completed with the assistance of Clean Air Partnerships. So this is the first time I'm looking at it now. I don't see where you're at. So I'm at corporate dashboard, and this is, I go to add corporate inventory?
Yeah, here, I'm going to jump back here. So you've got the corporate dashboard.
Yeah, so I'm.
Yeah, so if you want
there.
to,
Okay.
yeah, if you want to make a new inventory,
yeah,
you can press this button up here, or if you want to go into your existing one, you can select it from the.
Oh, okay, and
the
then that's
down.
where you were.
Yes.
Showing like the buildings and stuff. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But otherwise, if you create a new one, it's like add, and then you're writing like 2022, for example.
Yeah. But all that stuff will still like show up. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I were to create a blank one, it would just show up. There's nothing here yet. But...
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And then so yeah, you can enter all of your different fuel uses here. And the other option is if you, for example, have already calculated your corporate inventory and you just want to use the tool as a tracking platform, you can just enter your total emissions into this field here, and it'll add them all up for you automatically on the overview page so you can see the total. And you can add as many buildings as you want, or as I mentioned before, if you prefer to have them aggregated by sector, that works as well. So I'm just going to move on to the fleet here. Here, for example, you have it's very similar. You're just going to enter your fuel usage. You can do it per vehicle if you want, but that might be a lot. So yeah, you can also aggregate it per sector or just by the type of vehicle. If you know all your vehicle types, you can just put all of your fuel consumption for light duty trucks, for example, into one spot. And then you have your optional indicators here as well, where you can enter your kilometers traveled and number of vehicles, and it will generate your GHG intensity for that indicator. And I forgot to mention in the previous one, so this is the space here. This is a required field, the notes section. So this is where you would enter your where you got the data from, which is a requirement for the PCP program. And so the tool will convert it as well to gigajoules as well. So it's easier to compare between different fuel sources. And again, you can make as many fields as you want and just select different vehicle type and enter the source there. So the choice of vehicle type will change the emission factor that's being used. So the next two are pretty straightforward. They're very similar to the building sector, where you're just going to enter your total electricity consumption from streetlights and traffic signals and any other outdoor lighting you have. You'll have the number of lights in the group as your optional indicator. And as always, there's the option 2 to just enter the total emissions you've already calculated outside the tool. And water and sewage facilities, also same thing, just going to be your energy consumption for these facilities. So it's not the emissions from the treatment itself that's calculated in the community inventory. You're just looking at energy here. And the indicator here is the liters of treated water output, if it's known, but it's not necessary to enter that. And then the last sector is going to be solid waste. So as I mentioned, there's the operational waste, which is the waste generated from your waste bins at municipal facilities. And you're going to calculate that tonnage by the equation I showed in the PowerPoint. There's a few different options here. These are kind of like older equations. So I would recommend just using the option 4, which is the methane commitment model, which is that the approach, one of the approaches used in the GHG protocol. So if you were doing, for example, your corporate operational waste. So using that the calculation of how much waste is picked up from corporate waste bins, you would enter your tonnage in there. Then you have an option to alter the waste composition values. These are defaults from the National Waste Characterization Report. These are national defaults. So you can feel free to, if you have a waste audit, you can enter your own percentages, or you can look at the Waste Characterization Report and for Ontario and enter those here as well. And then you can select the type of landfill. For the most part, it's going to be managed, but there are other options here. These that align with the methodologies in the IPCC methodology documents. And then you can, if you have landfill gas capture, you can enter the percentage of methane that's recovered, and it will provide you the result here. And then if the landfill is owned and operated by the municipality, would also enter into here the total waste disposed at the landfill, and that would calculate. However, based on feedback we receive from other municipalities, you don't have to add the total landfill emissions to your total corporate inventory. So we found that, well, first of all, it's a split responsibility. So there's a responsibility on the municipality to implement best practices in landfill management, but there's also a responsibility on the community to reduce the amount of waste going to the landfill. We've also found that the landfill emissions if you're accounting for the entire landfill, it can often be quite large, and it tends to diminish the other sectors. So it looks like landfills, so it makes the other like buildings and energy consumption look like it's less important. So we recommend that you still calculate the landfill so you can see what that total number is, but in terms of presenting what's under your direct operational control, just look at your operational waste. Is there any questions on that? Because I know that can be a bit confusing.
Go ahead, Linda.
Maybe I guess more of a, yeah, like a question comment. So when you say how we present it in terms of sort of reporting to council and the public, being able to parse it out, yeah, that's actually really great to know, because that's been kind of my position for a while, that we shouldn't be including community waste emissions in our corporate inventories. It doesn't make sense to me. Is there any, like, does either ICLEI or CAP have any kind of documentation around that recommendation? Because I know sometimes we'll get pushback, or again, that kind of confusion around, well, if PCP numbers are this, why are we showing a different number in other contexts?
I'm not sure if we have I don't think we've come out with an official document on that yet. But that can be something that I prioritize in the near future here.
Or just let us know when it exists. I don't know if it needs to be a priority or not, but certainly anytime we can point to guidance as to why we're presenting numbers in a certain way, I think it's certainly always helpful for me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's found that, yeah, it's almost like it's almost like a corporate scope 3, so to speak, in terms of how you present those landfill emissions, because it's kind of like on the cusp of the boundary. Like I said, that it's like municipality can do things to reduce emissions from the management, but there's also a lot of the waste going to that is really driving those emissions. So
thanks. We don't have anything on that, so I guess Adler, I will wait on your response on this.
okay, sounds good.
And then Angie, do you have a question?
So a little more basic question, but I'm just really trying to grasp this first time around. So so option 1, I'm in landfill right now, or solid waste. Okay, so you had said which ones are best for each options. Can you just quickly go through which ones? So option 1 would be best for, and then option 2 would be best for.
Right. So these are kind of older equations. We still have them in the tool because you can still, like, if you have a comprehensive landfill collection system, you can use this calculation. But find that for the most part, like this is the most commonly used method here, because it does have the option for percentage of methane recovered at landfill. But for example, if you don't know the exact percentage of methane, or you're not able to get an estimate, then you can, if you just get it's a different option for like what type of data you have. If you know like the amount of landfill gas collected in meters cubed, then you can enter that there. For the partial, it's the same thing, but you need to know the uncollected surface area. So if you don't know these things, then you can use this. So these are only if you have landfill gas collection. Option 1 and 2.
Okay.
Option 1 and 3 is a little bit misleading in how it's labeled. So I'm looking at making some updates this year to the tool as budget allows. But this is the same as the option 2 in the other sectors. So you're just going to enter if you already know your emissions from the landfill, it's already been calculated somewhere else, you're just going to enter that total tons of CO2 here. So this is like the manual entry, and then this is the one we've added most recently, which is the methane commitment model.
Okay, so like we don't separate corporate and community. So I believe Cleaner Partnership did an estimate per how many employees we have.
For the corporate,
Yes, for the corporate.
does this information goes in the tool? Of
Maybe
how many-
Kevin did it differently. I don't know.
Oh, wait,
Yeah,
did you? Sorry, go ahead, Adler.
Sorry, like you've calculated weight based on like average waste per employee or something like
I
that?
believe that's what he did for us. So we don't separate, like we don't know what's corporate and what's community. And then he had asked us how many employees we have, part-time and full-time. And then I wasn't sure if like he maybe did that calculation off this tool or if this tool had that for us to do.
No, we don't have like basically the tool is just taking whatever activity data that you enter into it. So
Okay.
it sounds like in order to calculate the tons of waste from corporate solid waste, he did it based on employees, like to separate that out from community. And then you would just enter that total. So whatever he calculated would go into this field here.
Okay.
That
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then for the tons, and then we have a flare at the landfill.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have the flaring calculation in here.
Okay.
So if you do want to calculate that, I would recommend you'd have to calculate it outside of the tool and then just add a new record here and just enter that into this field here.
Okay. So we'd be pretty much using like option, like, so solid waste information, corporate, and then solid waste information, flare, like have the two separate with the data for them.
Yeah, so it would look like so you have your flaring here, and
Yeah.
then you add another record for landfill waste or operational waste perhaps.
Okay.
And always remember to hit the save button. That's going to update it.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then so you go. So I haven't entered too much data. So, but obviously you'll see everything will get updated here, and there's data table formats, and you can export to Excel here. So you can use the data to do whatever visualizations you want to do. As I mentioned, that we have pretty limited functionality in that regard. And the other view you can see is the completeness check. This is kind of more useful for the community side, but this can be a helpful way to just like see the overall different way of breaking it down, your overall data. And on the community side, it breaks it down according to all the GPC sectors and like scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. But for corporate, we just kept it more simple. And then I'm just going to jump into the business usual forecast here. It's a pretty basic calculation. It's just based on population growth. So you can select whichever baseline you're using. So you can select from that first dashboard page where you could select the inventory year. This is drawing from that. And then you're going to set your midterm and end date forecast year. So many people are doing 2050 or 2040 these days. And then your midterm target might be 2030. So this is going to matter for when you get to milestone 2, because you're going to see a graph in milestone 2 kind of showing your baseline compared to what target you've set. You can so it'll generate that graph for you based on the information you've entered into the business as usual. So the milestones are connected in that regard. And then there's 2 options for the growth rate. You can just enter annual population growth rate, which is it's just going to apply that across the board every year, or you can enter a separate growth rate for each sector if you have the data on how that might be broken out. And then the summary of that is shown here. And I can show you, I'm just gonna jump over to milestone 2 just so you can see like why this is like it is. So you can see here, so this would be, it's gonna draw on what you entered there. So your business as usual, this is your forecast. This is the business as usual that was on the previous page that it showed. This is your baseline, and then this is going to show your target trajectory based on what you entered in here.
Go ahead, Angie.
Sorry, me again.
That's why we
So-
are doing, I mean, it's good.
I know. I know I had asked for this. Okay, so when you did like for the forecast for the growth rate, was that under corporate? Like, why would you put population? Do you mean like staff growth rate?
Yeah, it's for the population based business as usual. It's just assumed that like municipal services will increase with population. So you know,
Okay.
it's not a perfect it's not the most accurate way of doing it, but it is a simple way to just get an idea of like where your mission, how your missions are going to grow.
Okay,
Over
so
time.
the population of the city for the corporate side for the forecast, not the employee growth. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, the population of the entire city.
Thank you.
And so that's actually drawing from what you entered in this dashboard here on your main dashboard when you first sign in. And that number there. And there is also, as mentioned, you can opt into this. If you check this box, then your data will be displayed on the public dashboard. It's public to users of the tool. So you can kind of filter through and look at what others have submitted. The issue with this is that not everything's up to date. Like people have been submitting in this tool since like 2014, right? So, and there's no guarantee that they've continued to use it. But you can kind of look around and see if you know someone submitted recently. You can kind of see you can filter by population as well, and you can see how you kind of compare to other inventories that have been submitted.
Is this accumulated?
No, I think this would be just from what their most recent
The latest?
whatever their approved inventory was.
Mhm.
So like you can see, okay, so it's at 2017 what they were approved. You can see the stuff that's on their main page here.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's like you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt because you know we don't know what went into this 2012 here, if it wasn't actually a decrease or if they changed their methodology or so.
Mhm.
But just to give you an idea. Great. So is there any questions?
Anyone? No?
All right, let's jump back to my.
Oh, go ahead, Angie.
Oh,
That's okay. Are you going just over the corporate one today?
yeah, that was my understanding. We were just doing
No,
corporate
that's
today,
fine.
but yeah.
That's fine. That's
But
what I
yeah,
had asked for. Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
great. But yeah, we can do a community one too in the future if you'd like. It'll be quite a bit longer. There's quite a bit more that goes into it. So.
Yeah, well, we have a template that was designed by our consultant for our climate action plan for community only, and then we use the corporate one that Clean Air Partnership helped us with. So we're trying to figure out how to track it. So I'm thinking that we could probably input stuff from the spreadsheet that they did for us into the PCP. So we have community and corporate.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
then, okay. And then
Yeah,
use the
done.
PCP tool for our corporate. Okay. sorry, thinking out loud
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, and like there's options. So like if you don't have to upload to the tool to submit to us, like if you just want to submit those community inventory reports to us by
Oh, okay.
email, like it's
Okay.
only if you want it stored in the tool, because that's one of the advantages of the tool is that, you know, if there's a staff turnover or something, then it's like it's a database that's it's always going to be there as long as we're around. So
Absolutely. Okay.
but otherwise, yeah, email is fine as well if you don't want to go through the work of uploading stuff.
I think eventually we will, but depending on when we have like a maybe January when it's a little slower or something.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, so that's my last slide here is just overview of some of the resources we offer or that are available to you. So we have the tool, obviously there's the PCP hub where you can ask questions of other members of the PCP program, and we post updates on different like funding opportunities or things going on in the local climate action space. We do have some how-to videos and recordings of workshops from previous years that are available upon request, because not all of them are translated to French, so we can't have them on our website. But if you ask, I'll send you the links. We do have their instructions page on our webpage. Just kind of gives you a brief overview of like what you need to do to prepare a submission. We have a number of case studies and other resources on our website. I offer one-on-one technical support as well. So you can reach out to me for anything you need in terms of the milestones or just climate action stuff in general. PCP protocol has all the equations and methodologies that are behind the tool. And then there's the national inventory report. That's where we draw our emissions factors and all that other data from. And then the comprehensive energy use database as well is available. So that's going to be more for the community side of things. If you need to scale down provincial level data, if you don't have data, local data. So just it's a little FYI there for you. Great. So yeah, happy to answer any questions, or feel free to reach out to me by email if anything comes up.
Thank you so much, Adler. Go ahead, Angie.
Okay, so we had a meeting the other day and I just highlighted a couple of things. So I want to just ask about that. So for the landfill flare, we do that separately. Then we also we flare off at the wastewater treatment plant as well too. So again, we would do a separate entry for that one.
Yes.
Okay. And also to standby diesel generators, do people typically like use that information, those emissions?
That's the new one for me, actually. I have not seen that before, but if you have the data on it, then it would be I would imagine be reported under the buildings sector. Yeah.
Okay. And do you know if municipalities that have their own police force, but they're not technically operating under, but they are associated, if they use their gas for fleet?
Yeah, so that's a tricky one when it comes to the operational control question. It could be a discussion with the police force and staff as to like who has the authority to implement energy efficiency or like vehicle green fleet programs and stuff. We did with the approach we took with Niagara region, we did a corporate inventory, helped them with that recently, and they decided to keep the police as like a corporate scope 3. So they wanted to know how much they're using, but it's not added to the other totals because it's not something they had direct control over.
Okay. Okay, that's it for my I think my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Quick question there, just with you mentioning Niagara region. So St. Catharines is the lower tier of one lower tier of Niagara region. St. Catharines Transit was brought up to Niagara region. Previous inventory so just does that just totally get removed, or how?
having trouble hearing you, Olivia.
Is that better?
Try
Maybe
again.
my computer was too far away on me. Is that any better?
Yes.
So St. Catharines had the St. Catharines Transit, but it was brought up to Niagara Region, which is the upper tier municipality. So do all emissions with that now get transferred to Niagara Region and St. Catharines no longer has to report it completely, or how does that work? Because we previously did include it in inventory, but now it's Niagara Region, so.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd say if that's no longer under your operational control, then you wouldn't have to report that moving forward. So that's something that you'd want to document though, and if you do an inventory in the future, that that's something that's changed from the past inventory, so you know why there's like a decrease in the fleet emissions or something like that.
Any other questions? Right. Linda is saying that Toronto includes police in their corporate fleet emissions.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say it's up. That's I think that each municipality might be a little bit different in how they work. But yeah, sorry, Linda, were you gonna say something?
No, I was just going to say the same thing. Not ergo
Yeah.
everyone should, but just
Yeah.
as an example of one municipality that does. But for sure, it's going to be municipality specific.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it does make things a bit different, more difficult when you try to start comparing municipalities, right? Because some people might not include it, some people do. So, it's just something to be aware of as well. But it's kind of the reality of doing greenhouse gas inventories.
What was so? Sorry if there's more questions. I was just gonna summarize that. We recorded this. I'm gonna share it with everyone, and then there are like two kind of like follow-ups, which is the difference between the PCP2 and Linda. What was this other two?
The provincial energy reporting. So
Right.
it used to be the broader public sector energy reporting, but I think maybe they've changed which regulation it's under, but I know we still have to do it.
Yeah. So yeah, Adler, only if you can give like a couple like sentence of why maybe this, so that municipal staff can use it when they present the data. And then the other was about why not including community waste into corporate waste. Just again, like a few sentences that they can use when they present the data.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you very much. And then, yeah, as Adler said, you can he shared his email in the chat. So as a PCP members, you can reach out to him for one-on-one if you need additional help. And also reach out to us if you need any other help or connection or anything else.